Good evening and welcome to Legal Tech Live, episode 84. I'm your host, Nick Rishwain, and my guest tonight is Matthew Barhoma. He's a lawyer and a legal tech founder out of the Los Angeles area. His company is Esquired, and you can find them at getesquired.com. Matthew, thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out, even when I was on spring break and following up with me on that. So before we launch into the company, give me some background on Matthew and how you, in your kind of journey into now Legal Tech startup founder.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nick, and big fan of your podcast.
Thank you.
I've watched quite a few, and big fan. I think that you offer great insight to a pretty up and coming and growing community that is massive. So, you know, I'm a big
Keep the
fan
praise
of you.
coming. I need this. I need the praise. I can't live without it. So you can just continue that as long as you want.
I'll keep it up for the entire podcast. Don't worry about it. So, thank you for your introduction. I am an attorney in downtown LA. I think I work in a pretty major jurisdiction in America, a pretty major county in America, and I love it. I'm new in it. I'm a baby in it, but I have big ambitions, and I absolutely intend to own it. Like I'm not doing it for play or for, I'm doing it for keeps. Is what I'm doing. So I do run two major operations in my life, a law firm and a tech company in the legal industry. So it falls under the LegalTech SaaS type company. And both of them are very, very intriguing things to do. On my law firm side, I do some business litigation, and I also do criminal appellate work. Which has a weird crossover, to tell you the truth. I'm starting to dabble in the DUI arena because it's actually similarly related to all the work that I'm already doing. So that's what I do on my law firm side. My tech side, which is the much more interesting side, I have a partner. It's a company called Esquire'd. We started it together, and it's a marketplace for lawyers.
Okay. And what does that marketplace do?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Expand.
Esquire'd is a marketplace for lawyers where attorneys who can't attend a deposition or a hearing or can't perform a specific task that requires the license of an attorney, they can come to the platform, they can create a request, and another attorney can fulfill that request for them and return back with the results, or what we call the verdict. And essentially, or what the platform calls the verdict. And essentially, that endeavor has been one of the most interesting journeys ever. I basically figured out the gig economy is a big deal. Legal is just picking up on it, but it hasn't done it artfully. Like, it hasn't been brought to the market space correctly, intuitively. And I think that currently what has existed has been just lacking. And so I partnered up with a tech conglomerate. His name is Tom.
Okay.
He's my CTO, Tom Tancredi, with Dom and Tom. And what he does is he's basically a tech developer in LA, in New York, and in Chicago, where he's home based currently. And basically, we are co-founders. So I'm not alone in this endeavor. I have a genius on my team, really, who basically handles my tech. I am the subject matter expert. And together, we've created Esquire'd. It's currently in beta. It has like closer to 900, crossing over to 1,000 users. And it's hitting some interesting times because of coronavirus.
I bet it is. So you guys are, lack of a better, it looks like my internet. How's my internet on your end, Matthew? Are you able to see me clearly? Because I'm getting a notice that my internet is
it's
unstable.
okay. It's
Okay.
okay.
We will try
I
to
hope my
continue.
internet is good for you.
Yeah, it's a little choppy, so I'm not sure if it's both of us or just everybody who's at home watching Netflix right now, maybe throwing us off a little bit. Anyway, just as a side note to that, or rather than, I know this is the worst possible comparison because it's been overused, but you're essentially an Uber driver for lawyers who need somebody to appear in there, right?
To some extent,
Are you there?
right. Uber, I think, cater. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah, I think there's a little delay there.
Awesome. Uber is, it dabbles in obviously a service industry. The Uber model works, I think, in every industry. I know optometry is starting to pick up on a gig economy. I know dental is starting to pick up on a gig economy. I don't know about the medical field. The medical field is a little different. But certainly, let me tell you something, legal tech is also certainly picking up on the gig economy, and it is actually very useful here. There are areas of law that could use a platform like Esquired. They're actually modeled around the ideal of something like Esquired. Does that make sense?
Yes, you bet. So, but continue on. Tell it. So,
Kind of like,
I need somebody to go ahead.
So,
Am I losing you there,
let
Matthew?
me give you a couple of good examples. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Thank you.
It looks like we're losing your video feed. That's okay if the audio still holds up.
Am I back on?
No, nothing right yet. There you are. It is a little choppy.
Perfect.
You may just go to audio only so that we can get.
One more time.
All right. So sorry for anybody listening. We are having what I can only assume are COVID-related internet connection issues. So we're going to try, and even though I'm showing good Wi-Fi and he's showing good Wi-Fi, I am going to try to just provide my audio for now and see if that corrects our issues here connecting. So you were talking about this being, I give the example of an Uber sort of helping put one lawyer who is needing a lawyer to make an appearance for them as a substitute. So I go to Esquire'd like I would go to order a driver or order a meal through DoorDash or something like that. I can do that as an attorney looking for somebody to stand in for me in a hearing.
Similar but different.
Okay.
It's not as similar as delivering food. I'm asking doctorates degree people who have licenses to practice law to do other tasks for attorneys. It's it does require novelty and the skill of an attorney, that's for certain. But let me tell you something. It's actually even better in the legal world than anywhere else, and I'll tell you why. There are areas of law, Nick, that actually are built around a volume practice. Let me give you an example. Workers' compensation is an area of law where in most states, if you file a claim, the insurance company must pay you $400 an hour to attend a deposition, okay? Or that's really the kind of the going rate. It's $400 an hour. Basically, what a lot of attorneys are doing is they're creating kind of a mill practice, right? It's not that they're not performing a legal service, they are, but it runs in a fashion of a mill. And one easy way to handle volume of cases at time is to employ other attorneys. Actually, the firm industry law firms as we know it run on an associate-based model. And that's exactly what Esquired is. They're a functional equivalent of an associate. Now, who that associate is, actually, from my perspective and my data, it's pretty interesting. When we set up Esquire'd, we basically started to open up registration for all attorneys. You had to be an attorney and carry some form of malpractice insurance to become a member. We pulled data after we opened up that kind of registry, and we found out that a lot of new lawyers are using the platform, which was predicted. We expected that there would be a high volume of new lawyers. What we didn't expect, and what was really interesting, was the big group of retired or maybe mid-elderly attorneys that have been in the field, have been doing it for about 20 years, but maybe just don't want to keep up with the attorney-client relationship. And all that brings, because that could be
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We have some guests who have come over from the Facebook to here, so I am chatting with them in the side. So thank you, Daza, for being here. And it looks like we have an arbitration center visitor who is here. So don't let that distract you, Matthew. My apologies.
Awesome. I'm so sorry about that. So basically, what I was saying was that there are areas of law that run similar to this, and the firm industry has absolutely been doing this. For instance, let me give you another example. A good common example are ticket lawyers that handle volumes of tickets at once in one place. Those kinds of attorneys, obviously use kind of like an associate style operation. And what that does is it allows them to basically hunker down and handle mass volume of cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I've seen a similar, I know you didn't appreciate my food delivery comparison,
No,
but
I was just clarifying. It's not.
You're right. You're right. And this is a legal technology podcast, and I should not have compared the two. But there is one that is a gig economy that I've used in the medical field called Doctor on Demand, which is a little different because you're not asking. Yeah, it's not that you're asking somebody to stand in for you. It's that I'm sick, I don't want to go to my doctor, and I can call one up, and it's just telemedicine through the app. So it seems a little bit more like that.
Well, let me
you're
tell you what
getting
it is.
a degreed doctor. Go ahead.
So I'm general counsel to a pharmacy company, a pharmaceutical, and they have also kind of something similar to that. And they have a competitor on Amazon. Amazon started a company essentially, or bought a company called PillPack, that basically delivers that delivers medicine to patients. It's essentially a retail pharmacy that's online, which is very, very taboo in many, many states. It's not okay. It's not operational to run that kind of pharmacy. And they have kind of like a gig economy type platform as well, because to handle these kinds of pharmaceuticals, you need to be a PharmD. Again, the gig economy and the marketplace kind of platform it's proving to be relevant in almost every major industry, whether it be some form of medicine or some form of legal, or some form of service that requires a bit of a doctorate's degree, or maybe a higher level of gig economy essentially.
Yeah, that is very cool. I forgot all about PillPack. That is a great comparison. So tell me then, tell us how it works. Okay.
So basically, when you're an attorney and you need an appearance done tomorrow or the day after, or you know what, because of coronavirus, the court double booked you, which it's doing to me right now. You just need someone to fill in for that specific task. Or you have something that's a little bit more remote, like a Bakersfield when you're in downtown LA hearing, or something that requires a little bit of travel. Essentially, you can come onto the platform, create a request, and another attorney can fulfill it for you. The platform was built by Dom and Tom, or by Tom from Dom and Tom, overseen by them. And because Tom is a direct owner of the platform, and essentially, you know, now that we're kind of wrapping up beta, we've been showcasing to investors. We've been a bit of a roadshow, or like a pony with many different investors, and it's been kind of interesting, to tell you the truth, what sparks their interest, what they're interested in putting money in, or how they evaluate something like this. And you know what's funny is actually there's a really good way to evaluate companies quite like this one. There's an equation that you could apply to SaaS companies. And if you just apply it correctly, you have data that will ensure your prominence. Does that make sense? So
it does.
Your ability to do it. And I think that the right investors in legal tech are not the ones who are like, just like whatever all over the space, but are the ones that are like, okay, listen, I'm familiar with this. I know how this works. I've seen these other entities or variations do other things like it, maybe in the legal field, maybe not, and could absolutely determine that $1 here is worth $2 tomorrow. So really, that's
that is it. That's it's a good summary as well, because it can be compared to other existing entities that have had good success.
Hey, Nick, actually, I'm here to tell you it does. When Tom and I decided to enter this market, we wanted to know something. We wanted to know that we were not pioneers. Essentially, what that meant was we were not the Yahoo to Google, or we were not the Motorola phone to the iPhone. We wanted a validated market, a market that makes sense, and that has competitors, because it shows a healthy ability to grow, a healthy ability to sustain. And it's also, you could rely on existing data and be like, look, all these things are correct about this, but all of that is wrong. And to tell you the truth, it takes an attorney to get it done. And I mean it, because I have competitors that are not owned by attorneys, and you see them rapidly losing market share. Or you see ones that are owned by attorneys, but they're kind of like quasi-attorneys. And again, it doesn't speak the dialect. You need an attorney to be able to run, a subject matter expert, to be able to run this kind of thing. And that's exactly what Esquire'd is based on. When we say we are legal tech, we mean it. We are. We have legal and we have tech, and we intend to actually fully, endorse and flourish in the industry. Integrate. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
So hold on. There are some things I can't share.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you. Give me a little feedback on. So, what is a normal payout for? All right, if I need you to represent me in a hearing, how much does the appearing attorney normally get in that situation?
Okay, so let me just fix the question just slightly. Esquire'd is a lawyer-to-lawyer service. I want to make that very clear. It is not a service that goes from lawyer to client.
Sure.
We vet and make sure that every user on the platform is an attorney, licensed, in good standing with their bar, and of good legal competence to what that county mandates. So we're not lawyer to client. But with that being said, what is the average payout?
Or what would the average lawyer request for just an appearance?
So, you ask a really good question, Nick. I got to be honest with you, and I told you I'd keep the compliments coming, and that's it.
Please, yes, I need those. Indaza and the arbitration center are here. Indaza likes your idea, and I'm sure he'll have some questions shortly. So Yeah, and you'll want to get to know Daza Greenwood from MIT's Computational Law Report, but he likes this platform. But Daza knows that I require compliments. It helps.
Yeah.
But please answer away.
Let me answer you, and then I want to answer Daza, and I want to get to know Daza. But essentially, you ask a good question in the sense that one of the flaws of this industry at its current state is that the price is too low. And I'll tell you that from a sustainable standpoint. For you to sustain this platform, the price is too low. If you are not good to your people, to the people who are essentially handling items, then you're not good to your user. You are like, we are very much a SaaS. We are a service company, and essentially, for a service to work, it needs to be fair on both sides. But essentially, I think my competitors, quite frankly, have pitched the price too low. I think the price should be better. An average payout on Esquire'd ranges from about 180 to 200 a task, depending on novelty. Also depending on distance and relevance to prep time. For instance, a CMC, something where you got to show up because it's a case like, status conference for the court. You're really kind of relaying just information. Right? Does it need an attorney? Yeah. Does it need the novelty of an attorney because you got to appear on the record and make a record of certain things? Absolutely. Right. But the novelty of how difficult that is in comparison to something that's like law in motion, where you got to argue something that's substantiated or outline something between the litigants for some reason, then that kind of requires a little bit more prep time and therefore requires a little bit of a higher price. It's not that you pay what you get what you pay for, but it really kind of depends on what has to be done. Not all gigs are the same. It's not a one size fits all. And the more intuitive that a platform could be like that, the more fluid that it could be, the more that the user base will have an easy time interacting with the platform, the user endpoint itself. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes good sense, and we certainly know that there's not a one size fits all in legal services. So that is good to know. And how do you guys? So this is lawyer to lawyer or B2B kind of SaaS product. How do you guys? Do you guys take a transaction fee, or how do you make your money?
So we run the platform, and that has a cost. Is really what it is. When we set out to do this, we didn't set out to like monetize like crazy and, just be like the biggest, baddest. We just wanted to be evaluated big enough to partner up with big enough companies and have big enough sustaining power. And that's really what it is. The pricing model is based on being able to run the show, to run the operation. A lot of people like to call it gig economy. I think as it applies in legal tech, it's concierge. Really is what it is. It's a concierge service for lawyers.
Okay. Yeah. So you're not going to tell me what your transaction fee is?
Like how much we make?
Let me try stopping my video again because it seemed. Yeah, on a transaction, is it a range?
It is. It kind of depends, and not only that, the reason I'm not telling you, to be quite transparent with you, is we're tiering it currently. If you are more of a we're tiering our platform. So what that really means is this. If you do a lot of appearances, we keep track of that. And the more appearances you make, the more of your fee you get to have, because honestly, you're putting in work, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't do it as much, it's a different tier. So we don't take an exact cost on everything. Again, it's fluid. It's very dependent on how the user is interacting with the platform. Do we take a 25% fee? Sometimes. Do we take less? Sometimes. Because again, this is a platform that operates on fairness, on the ability to kind of maintain two sides and being fair to both sides. And that
Gotcha.
means the platform included.
That makes sense. Okay, that clarifies it for me. And can you tell us, you've been in beta? Can you tell me anything about is anybody actively using it to have another attorney appear for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, courts are closed right now, so appearances are kind of low, but tasks and more tasking things are definitely on the rise on the platform because people need more tasks done. So we've had a really, really interesting beta, Nick. We have been able to gather a lot of data, in putting together that data, how much we're worth, and our evaluation when we talk to investors. Because we needed to get enough of a flow going to be able to truly evaluate it. Anything else, it's too theoretical. It's yoga babble, or what is the WeWork model is, right?
Yeah, you need actual traction.
Exactly. You need real traction. And so that's really where we've been. We've been on the traction end of things. But in beta, we're crossing over to 1,000 users, which is like, to us, I mean, like if we wanted to hit the play button and make that 5,000 tomorrow, that's not the hard part because the supply and demand is there, right? We know that the supply and demand is there. Going out and getting users, not a difficult task.
Right.
It's managing the usership that is. So we are on a growth, again, that is kind of fluid in that sense. But essentially, the big thing that we've done is roll out a business plan and spoken and made a lot of friends in the legal industry. I just did a podcast with Daniel with Clio, and we kind of discussed an integration that's in our business plan. And honestly, Daniel, if and when you see this, I think down there at Clio, they got to give you a raise because you've been hustling. But he really has been, and you have been too, Nick. Honestly, like you guys are hustling. But so you know, we have a lot of potential integrations on the line. It's definitely has been in our business plan. Coronavirus, surprisingly, has actually made this task easier because everyone I want to speak to is in this position right now, like me and you. They're on their computer. They're dealing with outbound. They're making new relationships, and they're touching base. I've been in discussions with Clio. I've been in discussions with LawPay. I've been in discussions with guys who are investing not even in legal tech, but are interested in getting started in legal tech. And partnerships have been, crossing path all over the place. So it's definitely been interesting.
That's good. I like that. Where do you see, so I know that, yeah, certainly that appearances, even in our local jurisdiction, I think they've pushed everything out another 45 days at least at this point, or 30 days more at least. So post-COVID, when we get, through the phases in California and hearings are ready to begin again, whenever that might be, when do you guys plan on kind of going out of beta and into full operation?
Well, we're in that transition process now, but I think you hint on something. Yeah, we are. I mean, we're closing our funding round, and we already have the money in play. We're waiting post pandemic, but I think you hint on a way bigger topic. And that is, what does the legal community look like post pandemic? God, who knows?
Right.
Every person is issuing their, IDL. As a practitioner in the field, not as a co-founder in the field, but as a practitioner in the field, God knows. Cases started getting pushed out from May into June, and then very quickly right into July. And not only that, but courts from all over the place are starting to double and triple book you. So post-pandemic is going to be a very interesting thing for the legal world.
It's going to be a very interesting thing for the legal world, from the law student on up.
Seriously, it starts there all the way up. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we've already seen the bar exam get pushed back in multiple jurisdictions. Yeah. So there's a variety of problems there.
Yeah, but
That facing this industry. Where would you like to see yourself in 6 months? And I'll say it this way, under ideal circumstances, because we realize that we don't know a lot about what the next 6 months holds. So under ideal circumstances, where would you like to see Esquire'd in 6 months?
booming. I'll tell you why. It's all about being able to sustain it, right? Post pandemic is an unknown world. It's very, very, very different. But what we do know is inherently, as human beings and as practitioners in this field, we inherently need each other. There's just no way around it. I could tell you some of my biggest and most successful cases are cases where I have dealt with co-counsel and co-counsel and co-counsel. So really, I think the legal world post-pandemic sticks together. And I think that the legal industry, I mean, as crazy as it is, as crazy as it is, it's resilient. It has a way of always sustaining. It has a way of always manufacturing and working, and that's what I think post-pandemic is. And Esquire'd is a part of that journey. It's a co-counsel, platform, and so I do think that post-pandemic in the ideal world, it's interesting, but there are definitely going to be big changes to the legal community. I mean, it's interesting, Nick. I've done my first appellate court argument with 5 judges on video, just like you and I, right when this pandemic started. And it's like,
Interesting.
it blew my mind. I was like, wow, 5 senior, judges are all kind of taking their own, video, and they're taking the bench. Is really what they are. And as soon as I started my argument, just like it would in court, Chief Justice started just to hit me like, how? Well, why are you saying this? And it's like, boom, here it is. I'm in my office making an appellate court argument, thinking on my feet, just like I would in everyday court.
And hopefully that will continue in a variety of different spaces, because I mean, we've only had this video technology for 25 years, and in the legal community has been behind on that.
I put up something on LinkedIn. I was like, it took a pandemic to make something happen in the legal community. But to tell you the truth, I mean, it's beautiful the way it works. And do I think it's here to stay? I think a lot of it is going to be here to stay. Maybe not everything, but I think a lot of it is here to stay. I mean, there's still something to be said about face-to-face interaction. And I was a big believer of this as just like an everyday, courtroom attorney. If I had the opportunity to be present in court and not be present by court call, I would take the opportunity, because there is a different respect that judges are going to give attorneys when they're standing there face to face. They could see the motion, they could see the arguments. But with that being said, that appellate court argument that I made would have been something where I would have had to travel to NorCal, and I'm in SoCal. I'm in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So my ability to handle something that was that far away, it was just like, and not only that, let me tell you something, my client was happy because I was bringing finality to his case. I was making progress on his case. I wasn't like these other attorneys that just was like, hey, you know what, I'll talk to you in 4 months. No, I took care of business for him, and it was the best way to proceed given the circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And when the courts see the efficiency that allows of you not having to travel and then bill for all that travel and bill, additional preparation in hotel and all that, I think the court hopefully will see that this is better for the litigants themselves and more cost effective. But we digress there. And I did come back on screen here because I wanted you to be able to see me, because there is a value to this. There is a value to this. It's the reason that I did LegalTechLIVE was because you actually got to see each other, and guests get to interact when the internet cooperates. They get to interact with the guest and with me and ask questions. With that said, Daza, you're still here. You've come over. If you have questions for Matthew, please get them in. Matthew, what haven't we covered in the last 40 minutes? Forgive me for forgive us for the technical difficulties, but what haven't we covered that you wish we had covered?
So we spoke about legal tech. We spoke about the journey of Esquired. I did want to add one more thing, and then hopefully I could just take some questions from attendees. But the Supreme Court has elected to do teleconference arguments, which I thought was super interesting. They could have chosen to delay the term. They could have chosen to deal with it on the merits, as they sometimes do, but they decided to hear material arguments telephonically. And that to me is pretty progressive, because you're talking about the most senior of them all. So
several of them are well into their 80s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Daza does ask a question here. He said, well, because he knows that I need compliments to continue living. He says, I already asked his questions, but what's next with the technology? Do you have anything that you can, anything in the pipeline that you're excited to share about, that you can maybe give us a little hint about?
Yes, absolutely. Legal tech is just experiencing its boom. Believe me when I say it, because it seems like it's big now. It really, really is just on its way to growth. And it's so exciting to be, a part of that generation that essentially births legal tech. What's next is, I think you're going to see it kind of evolve. When I first entered this field, everything was like super interesting. It was like, oh, look at this company, they do that, and look at this one, they do that, and then look at this. And it was just, I was like a kid in a toy store. And then I realized, oh, whoa, all these companies are about to innovate, and they're about to grow so much more, because what they have established now is just a platform. They're going to build from there. That is foundational. So definitely going to see, absolutely, Daza, the evolution of legal tech.
And Daza is working on the cutting edge of that evolution. So Daza, when we wrap up recording, if you want to jump in and say hello, I recommend it.
Can I have a question for Daza?
Whoa, we've got a reverse. We have a reverse. I don't know that we've had a reverse in all 84 episodes, where the guest is now asking one of the attendees for a question.
What is Daza's background? And if he could just send it to us, I'll check it out. I want to.
Yeah, don't let me speak for you on this, Daza. I'll screw it up.
But he's in mediation, huh? I sent over a little.
No, that was somebody else who was here, and I'm not sure they've come back.
Yeah.
Daza Greenwood, I'm going to have to go and read it for him. He's going to make me read it for him. Civics.com. We can have Daza come in and do his research, legislation, legal, and computational law background when we're off camera, or when we're off recording. Matthew, where do people get in touch with you?
So pretty straightforward. Matthew at Esquired.com. If you feel like we should connect, I'm on the outbound. Let me tell you something, and I kind of touched on this earlier. Coronavirus provided a really interesting thing where inflow of business you knew is going to be negative. If you were marketing, you needed to market more. If you were hustling, you needed to hustle more. And essentially, the day that this pandemic really started, I came into the office and I brought it all down to zero. My law firm down to zero, Esquire'd down to zero, and it was like start again. So I'm on the outbound version of things, and I'm looking to make connections. I'm looking to make friends. I've made some friends in legal tech. I am like, wow, they absolutely shocked me by their resilience and their ambition. And I'm continuing to look for more connections. So if you want to get in touch with me, touch base. I certainly want to keep in touch.
Yeah, and Daza is correct. He is saying that LegalTech is generally very friendly, and I agree with that. Generally quite friendly, much more friendly than some of our friends who are more specifically just practicing in legal and have to do more of the adversarial experience than we do in LegalTech and in litigation. Correct, Daza.
You know why? Because in practice, like your litigators, you hate each other. If you look at a lot, what a lot of lawyers are doing is they're making this like lateral move into tech, or this like lateral move into kind of SaaS style work, and it's because they don't like the litigation, the adversarial, the I hate you type, the I aspire to make you worse type. You know, and it's definitely, it has that switch for sure.
Yeah, it does seem to have that switch. So it is Matthew at Get Esquired, and that's a D on the end. That's GetEsquired, getesquired.com. He can also be found on LinkedIn. Sadly, I could not find him on Twitter, where legal tech is just booming. And I imagine Daza will come in and maybe convince him as well to join us on the Twitter sphere. Matthew, thank you for this. I think our audio should turn out just fine. The video probably will turn out just fine because less of my face has appeared on this episode. So that's good. And we'll be back next week, episode 85, and we are going to have Nick Moran from the Full Ratchet. He is with New Stack Ventures, and he'll be coming in to share with us about fundraising in legal tech. So if you're interested in the finance and the fundraising side, please join us here next week. I will likely be back in the office with hardwired in, and hopefully we won't have our telecommunication issues. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Our guest tonight was Matthew Barhoma of Get Esquired. Thank you, Matthew, for joining and sharing about your startup.
Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much. We will talk to you all later.